Welcome to A Word on Westerns. I'm Rob Word and would like to talk to you about somebody that we had as a past guest on our show. Her name is Ann Robinson, a Hollywood actress with wonderful Western credentials, including appearing in the very first episode of Cheyenne in 1955 with Clint Walker, L.Q. Jones, and James Garner, and co-starring in the very first season of Fury that same year. Coming off the giant commercial success of War of the Worlds in 1953, Ann was already a seasoned pro who could not only act, but she could ride horses. That made her an ideal choice for the Cheyenne pilot. Ann was a delightful guest. Her death at the age of 96 in September wasn't announced until recently. Our conversation from 2016 at the Autry is being posted on May 25th, 2026, which would have been her 97th birthday. Condolences to her many fans and friends. Now, here she is, the wonderful, joyous Ann Robinson.
Orson Welles, now we have Hitler on the rise in 1938, and then George Pell in 1953, 52, he made it, came out in 53, it was communism, and then when Steven Spielberg decided, it was his favorite movie, and so many people criticize it, and it's not fair because it is a wonderful movie, and there is no comparison with the original. I mean, the terrorists now are on the rise, so every time the movie is made, there's a metaphor for something. Something is going on for the reason that movie still holds up.
Welcome to A Word on Westerns, where today we have a leading lady who was in the premiere of the Cheyenne episode with Clint Walker and James Garner, the star of War of the Worlds, the original version. Her name is Ann Robinson, and she's our guest right now.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Well, I want to hear about Cheyenne right away.
Well, right away, I want to hear about this hat.
Oh.
Now, I want you to read this, please. Who gave this to me?
We're going to get a close-up of this hat later because inside it says this Stetson 4X Beaver was made especially for President Ronald Reagan. And it doesn't fit.
No, I'm very proud of this. Nancy Reagan gave it to me after the president had passed away, knowing how much I admired him. So it was a gift. What a surprise it was to get through the mail. So I wanted everyone to be able to see a copy of President Reagan's hat.
We never knew his head was so small.
Well, no. The hat or the head?
No.
No.
That is a special treat. And it's a treat to have you here as well.
Thank you, it's my pleasure.
When Cheyenne first premiered, it was part of a rotating one-hour anthology series called Warner Brothers Presents, because none of the studios wanted to enter television. They felt it was competition. So they had their top movies made into TV shows, Casablanca, King's Row, and this little throwaway that they thought, well, maybe people will watch. Cheyenne, based on a Dennis Morgan movie that they had done in the 40s, but totally new script created by Roy Huggins, the Cheyenne character.
All these names are coming back to me, thank you.
You're welcome.
Cheyenne, Cheyenne.
So it premiered on a rotating basis. Clint Walker, big, sturdy Cheyenne Bodie, and in the pilot was you. What do you remember about that?
I was just so lucky to be in it. I remember that he was 6'6", an enormous man, awfully sweet. I think Clint Walker perhaps was the most decent man I have ever met. He made you remember that you were a lady, and you never dared even say the word hell or damn. It would embarrass him, and he would look at you with, I'm so disappointed in you, I didn't expect that. So, I mean, he really, I admired that man so very much. And James Garner, I went to high school with him. He was about 2 or 3 years ahead of me at Hollywood High School. When I entered in the 10th grade, I think he was graduating.
James Bumgarner.
Yes, James Bumgarner. And Stu Whitman was there too. Oh, we had a lot of handsome men at Hollywood High School. It was his first screen kiss, and I think he hadn't been in front of a camera that much either.
Well, whatever happened, the camera loved him.
Indeed, indeed they did. He turned out to be a very successful actor.
I had a wonderful, wonderful horse that I rode through the whole series, except now and then we do a Cheyenne where I had to ride a different horse. But I also used him when I did Fort Dobbs right here, and I used him in Gold of the Seven Saints with Roger Moore and Chill Wills, and also used him in Yellowstone Kelly. And I think that's one of the things I miss the most, because Brandy, I could never have had a better horse than that horse. And when I left Warner Brothers, Jack Warner invited me for the first time to have lunch with him in his private dining room, and said they'd like to have me stay on so I could do Cheyenne, or they'd give me another series or whatever. And I told him that I would prefer to do features for a while, but it's still like home now. Warner Brothers seems like home because I spent 8 years there. But the business has been good to me, but it's not the same business anymore. And they don't make that many things that I'd really want to be a part of.
The show then that you were in just kicked off a huge success for ABC and Warner Brothers, and suddenly Warner Brothers was owning all the time slots on ABC with 77 Sunset Strip and Surfside 6, and you even came back and did another episode of Cheyenne.
Yes, the second season. Mm-hmm. I don't know, second season or year. It was quite a while later, though.
Mm-hmm. What is it about Westerns for you? I know you were telling me a story about Bud Bedecker and doubling for Roddy McDowell.
Well, not for him, for the girl that was in the motion picture with him. It was my first time that's how I got into motion pictures, was as a stunt girl. I have to start from the very beginning, because my mother and I were going to the Broadway Hollywood one day on Hollywood and Vine, and we parked across the street, and in those days someone would park the car for you. And this man came up, and I looked at him and I said, "Good Lord, you're Johnny Carpenter." He was a B-Western star that I had loved all my childhood life. And he said, he was thrilled to death that someone recognized him, because he, I guess, hadn't worked in quite a while. And he still had horses in a stable that was over on Riverside Drive in Los Feliz, which is now where swimming pools are. And there had been a drive-in movie was there, but there was a huge stable there. And he had his horses. And he invited me down. And he said, can you ride? And I said, well, I've ridden all my life on a flat saddle, on an English saddle. And so he said, I'm going to make a cowboy out of you. And so he put me on his horse, Patterfoot, and taught me how to be a cowboy and how to ride Western style. And that's how I got into motion pictures. He was training young boys. He liked to take blind people of handicap. And he had some boys called the blind rhythm riders. And he was making a half hour or an hour, I'm not quite sure how long it was, about training these boys on how to ride horseback. So they had a movie, the stagecoach was being robbed and all this and that, wanted me to be his leading lady and ride his horse. And so in I rode on this, and on his horse, and it was on television one afternoon, and our neighbor saw it. And one neighbor, an Alton Carpenter, was a grip at the studios, and he knew Cliff Lyons, who was also in motion pictures, and Yakima Canutt.
Great stuntman.
Yes, and they thought, you know, this girl can ride, and also she looks like she could be a pretty good actress. I was about 18 or 19, and so they helped me get a Screen Actors Guild, a Screen Extras card. So after I got my extras card, I was able to get a Screen Actors card. And meanwhile, I doubled for Shelley Winters. I doubled for quite a few people.
What did you double Shelley in?
Frenchie.
Oh, that was...
Another remake of Frenchie. I think that was about the third one.
Yes, yes. The horseback riding was natural for you.
Yes, it was.
Did that help when you were cast in the TV series Fury?
Oh, very much so. Very much so, because I'd already done 2 shows for them with them, George Montgomery and Buster Crabbe. And they said, well, we don't have to hire a stunt girl. It'll save on the budget if we can hire Ann.
Well, I know in Gun Brothers with Buster Crabbe and Neville Brand, they were brothers, and your sweetheart was Buster Crabbe.
Yes, it was. And he was my sweetheart as a child, too.
That's Flash Gordon.
He was Flash Gordon. Yeah. And that's the first thing he said to me when we got on a horse together. He reached over and he poked me, and he said, go ahead and say it, get it over with. And I said, okay, what is it? He said, you used to see me. Yes, I did used to see you when I was a little girl at the Carmel Theater. On Saturday afternoon, I'd go see you.
Yeah. Boy, he was a great Flash Gordon.
He was an adorable man, too. He was so sweet and just as handsome then as he was as Flash Gordon.
He was an Olympian.
Yes, an Olympic gold medalist for swimming, yes.
A swimmer.
He would have been the first Tarzan had he not hurt himself, and they replaced him with Johnny Weissmuller, the first sound Tarzan.
I had no idea. Oh, no, but Johnny Weissmuller, he was also my hero. Never got to meet him, but he was my favorite Tarzan.
Yeah. With Buster and Neville Brand, Neville was kind of a rowdy guy, wasn't he?
But he was a delightful person. He was actually, he was very quiet. He wasn't a boisterous man or a crude man whatsoever. I think that was just his features.
Well, he was the 3rd most decorated man in World War II.
I didn't know. I thought it was second.
Nope. I thought it was the second for the longest time until I asked him. And I said that, well, you were the 2nd most, like I know what I'm talking about. And he says, no, Rob, I was the 3rd most.
The 3rd, I had no idea. And he never talked about it.
No,
never spoke a word about it.
He had some hits, the Laredo, the TV series that he did too.
No, he was marvelous.
And then you did, after that feature, the George Montgomery movie. And then Fury.
And then Fury.
You did quite a few Fury episodes.
I did 13 episodes.
What a great cast that was with Peter Graves.
Peter Graves, William Fawcett.
Oh, William Fawcett. You know, he cut his teeth on a branding iron.
Are you serious? What are you talking?
They said that in the opening credits.
Oh, I don't recall
time.
that.
Yes, yes.
Morning, Miss Helen.
Good morning, Pete.
Keeping that date with your new young beau, huh?
Yes, but he's not in his room. Have you seen him?
Why, no, ma'am. Reckon I'm still asleep. I didn't notice Fury was gone, either.
Oh, I know what Joey is doing. He's trying to get that mare back.
Well, what do you know, the little... Say, Miss Helen, that ain't good. I better roust out Jim.
Why?
Well, some of the boys was telling me only yesterday there's a fighting fool of a pinto stallion in that wild herd the white mare come from.
Oh, Pete, you don't think Joey will be in any danger?
Well, you never can tell what'll happen in a horse fight.
Oh, you better wake up Jim.
Yeah.
You did so many Western series in the heyday of the Westerns. Shotgun Slade with Scott Brady.
I was in that, too.
Yes.
I'd forgotten
That's why
about
I brought
that.
it up.
Yes, well, thank you. I don't remember my credits. That's terrible.
Yeah. Well, here, I'll remind you
Would
then.
you be
How's
so
that?
kind?
All right. Remember a show with a tall, lanky guy with a big Adam's apple? Clint Eastwood, he was in one called Rawhide.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, you were in one of those
Rawhide,
too.
yes,
Yep.
I do.
Yep.
I was an Indian princess.
Well, we've had a run on those today.
I was the daughter of Quetzalcoatl, a Mexican Indian god. I have no idea why.
And with Michael Pate, I think, was in
I
that.
don't recall.
I think he was. And The Texan, another great series. You were in that with Rory Calhoun.
That's right, I was. Thank you.
I'm going to surprise you with some more.
I don't remember my copy of everything. Stefan, where are you? Why?
Stefan is her son, and he's going to fact check this for us later.
You're going to help me with my credits. I didn't know I'd worked that much.
Well, how about another one then?
Please.
We talked about Cheyenne, and you did 2 of those at Warner Brothers. They canceled Casablanca and Kings Road and put in other Westerns on rotation with Cheyenne, and one of those you did as well, Sugarfoot.
Oh, I remember. Yes,
that?
I remember him because
Hutchins.
oddly enough, the second horse that Johnny Carpenter owns' name was Sugarfoot, so I should remember that.
Well, Will Hutchins played Tom Brewster, the wannabe lawyer.
He was a sweet young man, a very quiet young man, lovely.
And he was tall too. He was like 6'4".
Well, I think Warner Brothers, they all hired tall people. I made a screen test for Kings Row, and they were going to do that series, and they cast me in the Ann Sheridan part, but I'd already signed for Fury.
Another great Western series from the 50s, Wyatt Earp, with Hugh O'Brien. You worked on one of those.
Oh, we'd known each other for years and years and years. We used to do a lot of openings together, like in Las Vegas, opening for a hotel there. And he was the best dancer. Oh, could he Roomba. He was a wonderful dancer. I miss him now.
Well, he did a lot for Westerns, but he met Albert Schweitzer in Africa, just as the Wyatt Earp show was winding down after 6 years. And as he was leaving Africa, Schweitzer said, "What is it that you're going to do with your life, Hugh?" And it made him think about it, and he came back to the States and created the Hugh O'Brien Youth Organization, Hobie.
Yes.
And which took kids.
He took the brightest. He was very interested in the brightest children that were getting sort of left behind.
But the legacy he left with Wyatt Earp, that was a #1 show.
He's
at
an
the
excellent
time.
actor.
And just a
good-looking fella.
He was that. When you were growing up watching Westerns, going to Hollywood High with all these future stars, were there Western stars that you had as your favorite?
Well, I guess it was Johnny Carpenter, evidently. I don't recall why I liked him so much, and looking back on it now, I can't remember one Western I saw him in. I keep trying to find it on the internet. Why did I like this man so much and recognize him when I saw him? He was my hero, and I'm ever so grateful.
Well, he saw something in you, obviously, to put you on a horse and...
Well, once he got me on a horse and saw I could ride, then he put me in a movie.
There's something else I want to talk about before you go, and it's a film that is a classic. The star of War of the Worlds, the original version. You know, with Gene Barry. This movie was a serious science fiction scare.
It still holds up so beautifully.
And if you look at it again now, it's during the McCarthy era, the Red Scare, and the analogy that you can make between the Martians.
Well, exactly.
Yes.
Well, I mean, as it started out with H.G. Wells in 1897, I believe, it was for British imperialism. And then Orson Welles, now we have Hitler on the rise in 1938, and then George Pell in 1953, 52, came out in 53, it was communism. And then when Steven Spielberg decided, it was his favorite movie, and so many people criticize it, and it's not fair because it is a wonderful movie, and there is no comparison with the original. I mean, the terrorists now are on the rise, so every time the movie is made, there's a metaphor for something. Something is going on for the reason that movie still holds up. I mean, it's 300 years.
The special effects have changed so much, but they work so very well in the George Powell film.
It's all done by hand.
You know?
All done by magic, by hand, by brilliant people.
How large were the alien ships?
They were about a meter They were solid copper. They weren't solid because you had the wires inside, but they were 1 meter wide. But they were all made of copper.
How did you get cast in that film?
I was under contract to Paramount at the time. I was a member of what they called the Golden Circle, which had been, they started that in the 20s. And Gary Cooper and Fay Ray were one of the original people in the Golden Circle. And so I was lucky enough to get a contract. Milt Lewis saw me in a movie, in a play called Wind Without Rain, with Martin Milner, who passed away this year, who's also I'd like to mention. He was a dear friend of mine. I did a play, and Milt Lewis saw it opening night, and I went to Paramount several times. And they just weren't gonna, I don't know how many times I read for those people, and they just weren't the least bit interested in me. And one day, he called me on the phone and said, "Can you get over here right away?" Robert Walker was ill, and they were doing pickups or remakes or whatever, on the film. And they had an entire crew standing by. And he said, "Get over here as fast as you can. I'm going to give you a screen test." And I raced over. And fortunately, I had very short, curly red hair. So they ran me through makeup, stuck a dress on me, put me on the set, and they said, "Do you have anything memorized?" And I said, "Yes, but it's a scene with gaslight, 2 people." He said, "Make a monologue out of it." And so there you are. Here I am when I'm 21, 22 years old. That's how long ago War of the Worlds was made. In 1952, I was 22. So I don't know how the brain works. I think when you're that young, it just doesn't work. It just works. You don't think. And so I made a monologue on the spot, and I had remembered there was a kiss in the scene, and there was a movie I had seen years ago with Robert Montgomery. You only see him if he looks into the mirror, because he is the camera looking at everything. And I remembered when he had to kiss. I think it was Autry Totter. I'm not sure.
Yes.
And she had to come up to the camera and kiss the lens. And at the last moment, I remembered that movie because there was a kiss in the scene. And I stepped forward and walked right up into the lens and didn't leave my lip print on it, and then backed off. And I perhaps got my contract because I had the nerve to do all that.
Well, that was great.
And so I was just very lucky to get the part. I was the last person read. And they didn't like the way I looked. I was far too glamorous, far too sophisticated. And Charlotte Clary, who was the woman who did the talent at the school over there, she had given me a breath exercise where I had to do 2 voices simultaneously. And the breath was not taking a breath just before you say speak the words of the other person. I had to do a very low, violent voice and a very high, innocent voice, where the low voice tells the innocent girl to kill people. And so I had to learn how to do this without taking a breath before each different person. And so they played the record for them, and they said, she did it twice, and they put them together, and they said, no, she did it by herself. So I had to stand up in what they call the fishbowl, which is a horrible room that they had the talent go in. And there's a big plate glass window, and behind it are chairs very much like this, but you really can't see anybody except when they're smoking their big cigars. You could see the red tip, through the glass. And so I did read it, had to set it down because I was shaking so hard I couldn't hold it. And so I was hired because I had a couple of good screams in it. So George Pell hired me, and that's how I got the part of War of the Worlds. And they said, well, you don't look the part, but we'll do our best to make you look the part. So they put a wig on me. And
cover that red
made
hair.
Me look, that's right, cover the red hair and make me look as Pomona as possible.
Well, you were terrific in the film, and it is a classic, and we thank you for joining us here today.
I have one thing I want to mention about the Gene Autry gun. My family comes from a small town in Ohio called Kenton, Ohio. And the Kenton Iron Works became very famous because they're the ones who made the Gene Autry cap pistol. The Wakalek people, my father worked for the Wakalek people. They made the cap pistol from, Kenton, Kenton, don't ever forget that. They did the cap pistol, and I'm very proud of that.
Did you keep any?
Pardon me?
Did you keep any of the cap pistols? That would be nice.
Oh, isn't that awful?
Yes.
I didn't even keep one comic book. John Wayne asked me who my favorite cowboy was in motion pictures. We were on a tour together through Texas. He said, "You like horses. Who's your favorite cowboy in movies?" And I looked him straight in the eye and I said, "Joel McRae." So, thank you, dear. Thank you very much.
And thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you so much.
Yep, don't forget your hat.
No, I won't.
Let me help you now.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I'll need to watch these steps.
Yes.